Okay, so what we're going to be doing is we're going to learn how to graph quadratics in standard form. We're going to do this by hand, and then we're also going to use a calculator, but we're going to try it by hand so you know how to do it if you didn't have a graphing calculator. Now, this is in standard form. So once again, standard form is when you have y equals, or f of x or g of x if it's in function notation. You have a x squared plus bx plus c. Now in standard form, it's very easy to know where your y-intercept is because the c value will always be your y-intercept. So let's take a look at ours. And ours says y equals 1/4 x squared minus 2x, but you don't have a number at the end, so you can say plus 0. Well, that's our c value. So 1 point we know for certain that we will be able to plot is 0, 0. So that's one of our points. So we're going to use 0, 0 for our y-intercept. Now, this is 1/4, and that's being squared. And so one of the things I'm going to use is I'm going to use a number that I know is going to be easily divisible by 4, or multiplied by 4. So if I plug in a 2, I know 2 squared becomes a 4. So I'm actually going to look at this fraction, and that's going to help me choose the numbers. I'm going to put a 2 here. And so how would that work? So we're going to put y equals, we're going to do 1/4. We're going to plug in a 2 for the x value, and then put minus 2 times 2. So we're plugging in 2 for x. So when we do that, we get 1/4. 2 times 2 is 4, minus 2 times 2, which is minus 4. And you do 1/4 of 4. Well, 1/4 of 4 is 1, and 1 minus 4 is negative 3. All right? And so the other ordered pair I'm going to plot, all right, is 2 and a negative 3. So I have a 2 and a negative 3. I have a 0 and a 0. But we also need to be able to find our vertex. All right? So we have 2 points that we should be able to check to see if they pass through. But we need to be able to find our vertex. Now, there's a cool formula that allows you to be able to find your vertex each and every time if it's in standard form. And that formula, first thing we got to find is what's called our axis of symmetry. So I'm going to write axis of symmetry. This is a formula you're going to want to write down. The axis of symmetry is always negative b over 2a. So the axis of symmetry is going to be a vertical line that goes straight through the vertex. It's always negative b over 2a. Now our a value is 1/4. Our b value is negative 2. And that's the only 2 we need. And of course our c value is 0. But we're only going to use the a and the b. So here we go. Negative. Our b value is a negative 2 over our a value, which is 1/4. All right? We're going to put that multiplied times a 2. So it's negative b over 2 times our a value. Now a negative times a negative is a positive, so put 2. And 2 times a fourth becomes a half. 2 times a quarter is a half. 2 times 1/4, and that reduces to 2/4 reduces to 1/2. Now whenever you have a fraction in the denominator, all you have to do is just multiply it by its reciprocal. And so we get 2 times 2, which is 4. Because this half cancels out this 2/1, and 2 times 2 is 4. Now what does that mean? That means our axis of symmetry is that x equals a 4. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug in a 4 into our equation. So we're going to do 1/4. I'm going to plug in a 4. I'm going to square it. Minus 2 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So we're going to take 1/4 of 16 minus 8. 1/4 of 16 is 4. And 4 minus 8 is negative 4. 4 minus 8 is negative 4. So we're going to plot. Now this right here represents our vertex. So we're going to have 3 points that I want you to be able to see when we plot this correctly. We'll have a 0, 0, we'll have a 2, negative 3, we'll have 4, negative 4, and that will suffice for when we're graphing. Those 3 points, you'll be able to clearly see it. So main thing we're going to do right now is we're going to go over here to the graph. and we're going to put the vertex over here at 4, negative 4. And then here I'm going to put at 0, 0. And I'm going to take a screenshot real quick, because we know one's at 0, 0. We just found the vertex to be at 4, negative 4. And the other point that we said was going to be at was a 2 and a negative 3. So you can see those 3 points, 0, 0, 2, negative 3, 4, negative, for all these 3 points. But what did we have to do in order to find our vertex? That's going to be the important thing. So once again, in order to get this line called the axis of symmetry, you have to know the formula x equals negative b over 2a. I've used this formula so many times when taking standardized tests growing up, when they're trying to find the vertex for a parabola. Now once we found that, and our vertex happened to be at a 4, negative 4, but our axis of symmetry was x equals 4. So our axis of symmetry is x equals 4. Then we plug that 4 in here, and we got that negative 4. So once again, how are we going to solve these problems? The easiest way to solve these problems is to find 2 points, one being the vertex by using the axis of symmetry, and the other finding the c value, which is your y-intercept. Now, in order to check your work, all you got to do is just go over to Desmos, type it in. We're going to type in y equals 1/4 x squared minus 2x. All right, and I'm going to hit home, and you should be able to see there's the vertex, 4, negative 4. There's your 0, 0, 0. And you can also see there's a point right there, 2, negative 3, that we also found. So that should help give you confidence when you're checking your work. All right, let's go and do another one. I'm going to go ahead and write this down. All right, so here we go. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make a little table. And the first ordered pair that I'm going to find is our y-intercept, which is our c value. So I know we're going to have 0 and negative 4. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to identify a, b, and c. Okay. Our a value is negative 1/5. Our b value is 2. And our c value is negative 4. The next thing I'm going to do is we're going to find our axis of symmetry, which is x equals negative b over 2 times our a value. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So negative. Our b value is 2, so we put 2. And then we do 2 times our a value. And our a value happens to be negative 1/5. Now these negatives will cancel out, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. Okay? And so I'm going to have 2 over, and these 2's will also cancel out, but I'm just going to leave it as 2/5 right here. And what we're going to do is we are going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal, which is 5 over 2. 5 over 2, those will cancel out. And our axis of symmetry is going to be at the number 5. So the next point I'm going to find is when x is a 5. So here we go. I have negative 1/5. Instead of x squared, I'm going to open up a parentheses. I'm going to put 5 squared plus 2 times 5 minus a 4. And if you're wondering, what is x equals 5? X equals 5 is our axis of symmetry. It is the line that will pass vertically through the vertex. Alright, so the axis of symmetry always passes through the vertex. That's why we're trying to find it. And the formula that will allow you to find it every single time is this formula, x equals negative b over 2a. You just have to know, in standard form, it's always ax squared plus bx plus c. I know, I'm saying it over and over. So here we go. 5 times 5 is 25. 2 times 5 is 10. We're doing the order of operations, so we squared it. Now we're going to multiply. Negative 1/5 times 25 is negative 5. negative 5, plus 10, minus 4. It's like saying 10 minus 5, which is 5, and 5 minus 4 equals 1. So when we plug in a 5, our vertex is at a 1, and I'm going to use these 2 points to make my graph, and that's how you do it by hand. Okay? So 0, negative 4, and 5, 1. 0, negative 4, and 5, 1. So 5, 1, right. Oh, hold on, right there. 0, negative 4. This opens down. I know it opens down because there's a negative. If that was a positive, it would open up. So we have 5. Oh, make sure, hold on. 5 and a 1, 0, negative 4. Now, after you do the work by hand, then I want you to use Desmos. Okay? Don't use Desmos just to do everything for you. Then you're really not learning. All right? But so just use it as a tool to check your abilities. So we have negative 1/5 x squared plus 2x minus 4. And then you can clearly see there's our vertex at a 5 and a 1, and there's our y-intercept at 0, negative 4. So I feel better now, like, okay, now I know I got it correct. All right, so let's go ahead and do one more, and we'll call this video done for the day. All right, so here we go. Once again, we are in standard form, which is in ax squared plus bx plus c form. And right now you can clearly see that the c value is 0 because there's nothing there. So I know where my y-intercept is going to be. My y-intercept is at 0, 0. That's going to be my y-intercept. So you'll see a point there. The next thing we're going to do is we are going to find the axis of symmetry, which is x equals negative b over 2a. And once again, we have our a value, happens to be negative 1/5. We have our b value. Our b value happens to be the number 2, and our c value is 0. So we're going to plug these in. So negative 2 over 2 times our a value, which is negative 1/5. You should be able to see something like, wait a second, this looks kind of familiar because we did the exact same thing the last problem. Okay? And so when you work this out, we're going to get the same answer for our axis of symmetry. All right, the negatives cancel out. You're left with 2 over 2/5. Somebody in our neighborhood's revving up their engines. Multiply, those cancel out, those cancel out, those 2's cancel out, and you're left with a 5. Okay? Now you could do this in a calculator. I'm just showing you how to do it by hand. So we have x equals 5. So we have a 5. The only thing I have to do now, though, I have to take that 5 and I got to plug it back into our equation. All right, so here we go. Negative 1/5. We're going to plug in a 5. Going to square it, plus 2 times 5. So here we have negative 1/5. 5 times 5 is 25. 2 times 5 is 10. And we have negative 5 plus 10, which is the same as 10 minus 5, which just equals 5. So our vertex is going to be at 5 and a 5. So it's going to be actually right here and right here, but we got to make it go upside down. So the funny thing is we actually are going to use this point and we're going to use this point. The only thing is we got to make it go down and not up. Otherwise we'll get it wrong because that's a negative, and if it's negative it opens down. So what we have to do is we kind of have to kind of switch the points. There we go. So we have 5 and a 5 and a 0 and a 0, and you're done. All right. So if you mess up on one, you can always see step-by-step solution. All right, and you can kind of see what they do. All right. So it says the vertex can always be found by using the x negative b over 2a, because that helps you find the axis symmetry, and then you just plug that number in, just like we did. We plug that number in, and that's how we get the conclusion of being 5, 5. So they do it the exact same way as I'm doing it. It's just theirs is in words and mine's in video form. So I hope this helps, and have a good day.